Thank you very much, everyone, for joining this morning. I'm going to give you a quick run through this morning on securing the internet, public cloud and SaaS applications. The way I'm going to break this down is I'm going to look at it from a customer perspective and hopefully provide some narrative on how to communicate Prisma Access and some of its functions to your customer base to help with the story and the engagement around the different customer use cases. Because as we develop our understanding of our engagement with customers, it's quite clear that pinning ourselves, or at least understanding the customer use case, provides a better sales experience and allows us to capture more of what the customer is doing and help answer their questions. So this is going to be broken down into 4 parts, with a special 5th part that I've not put on here that we'll get to if we've got time at the end. So we're going to start with private app access. Now, you might look at this as our ZTNA 2.0 thing and data center access, but it is actually public cloud as well. We're going to look at internet and SaaS access, which is also SWIG, advanced SaaS app security and CASB, not so much the old school cloud access security broker element, but the next gen CASB that we're talking about, a bit about user experience. And then at the end, I'm going to cover SSPM. So a lot of customers have private apps, but not just in legacy data centers and in the public cloud as well. And as we know, there is a general drive to public cloud or cloud first in organizations. And this would, how do you access those applications if they're in a CSP? And historically, that's been by legacy VPN. So a VPN onto your data center, into the customer's data center, and then up to the public cloud in the usual way. This can be via express route or direct connect, etc. So this is a very simple diagram of what it might look like. You've got mobile users out on the road using VPN clients. You've got remote sites connected via MPLS or SD-WAN or specific VPNs for small sites. And these applications have moved into a hybrid model. You know, they're taking advantage of premises as well as cloud and multi-cloud environments. And the user experience here isn't great. It's not so bad if you're just accessing a single user application in a data center, but if you're then going from that data center up the express route into the public cloud. And there's a number of solutions that can address these, but Prisma Access helps transform this network element. So we can look at this as a network transformation project as well as just a VPN replacement. But this is probably one of the key and more pressing projects that your customers will be what they're calling VPN replacement. And it's to move away from this setup. So you've probably heard us at Palo Alto talk before about ZTNA 2.0 and the benefits of this, etc. But what it fundamentally allows us to do is to take a mobile user, a home user, branch, anyone, anywhere, provide our security solution, which is the continuous trust verification, continuous security inspection, etc., to that traffic, route it to wherever the application is. And you know, we do that on the principles of our ZTNA 2.0 piece, which is least privilege access, continuous trust verification, continuous security inspection, and we protect all data and all applications. And many of you, I'm sure, will have seen our presentations around this, so I've tried to avoid going into that in too much detail on this one. But if you've got any questions, then do let Nikki and myself know, and we'll be able to give you a follow-up detail, etc. But this is one of the key things about us. We are not limited to proxy-level applications, for example. We're able to cover all applications, and that covers IoT and everything else. And this is where you would first start the conversation about getting into zero trust with your customer, because this element would be considered a ZTNA project, which is often also referred to as VPN replacement. And it starts leading into the bigger conversations around what we can do. So what that would then look like is your mobile users, your remote sites, anyone, anywhere, connects to Prisma Access, the security policies applied, all of that extra functionality you get in there that we'll come onto a little bit in a bit. And then the user is provided access to the application or to the network storage area or whatever they're looking to get to. And then headquarters or old school DCs are connected to in the same way that you would connect to public cloud. And of course, being GCP and AWS based for the Prisma Access architecture, we have massive peering with AWS, Azure, and GCP itself, which provides a great user experience. And obviously UX is an extremely important part of what we're looking to do here. So to summarize this first part, this VPN replacement is a great segue into ZTNA. We've got some great functionality and some USPs around zero trust network access that we've talked about a lot. And this allows you a good opportunity to start talking to your customers about zero trust. And whilst VPN replacement might be what the project is called on the ground, C-level and senior leadership within the business will be communicating down that they are worried about zero trust. This is something we're seeing from more and more customers. We're engaging with them for VPN replacements and the other use case engagements we have that I'll cover in this deck. But that's often driven by a desire to move to zero trust. And you can only do zero trust when you start pulling together all of your security projects to centralized logging, centralized policy management, et cetera, et cetera. So, the 3 whys. Why change? What is the actual business impact if users turn off their VPNs? Because we all know that users will turn off VPNs because they have poor user experience. And what are the risk factors or obstacles for implementing ZTNA and doing it properly, for example? How do you measure user experience for these private apps? What do your remote employees do if they're experiencing slowness with their applications? I mean, that is a very difficult thing to manage, and I'll come on to that a little bit more with our ADEM later on. And why Prisma Access? This is what I'm hoping to give you a little bit of detail around today. So those are your 3 whys that you can do to help carry on the discovery once you've identified that your customer is looking at a VPN replacement type project. Little bit of, I've included some references. Sadly, we can't put names on here, but it's not too difficult to guess when you look at the size of some of these organizations. But here's one of many examples of organizations that have migrated away from legacy VPN to Prisma Access for better security with a dramatically improved user experience. And user experience here is key. This large organization had multiple different VPN providers. You've got your classic ones. You've got Pulse Secure, you've got Cisco AnyConnect, for example. And depending on the business unit or the organization they bought as they grew, you might have these different VPN arrangements. And they all have some or no security. There's often you have to have firewalls behind them. So the where you apply the security to that traffic is not necessarily upfront, which is where you'd want it for zero trust. And the employee satisfaction was poor. You VPN into a data center, you then had a lot of very complex routing to get to applications depending on where they are, which makes adds, moves, and changes very difficult. If you're coming in from one branch office or you need to get back to an application in a branch office, etc., that is within the business's network, that can be very difficult to get to. And it also makes the move to cloud very difficult. So they went with Prisma Access. They're now able to connect over 350,000 users globally in many, many countries, and they can protect all of their offices and provide access to their core business applications. So the next use case is internet and SaaS access. A lot of businesses have already started to look at this with cloud SWG projects. For those who aren't aware, SWG or SWG is Secure Web Gateway. And this has been handled by on-premise solutions such as Bluecoat, which is now Semantic, I think, and not necessarily customers' favorite solutions for that. There's a number of cloud proxy providers where you've basically taken your Bluecoats and put them in someone else's data center and provide it as a service. That in itself has its own limitations. But this is another use case where you might be looking at talking to customers, and we've in all honesty, we've seen a lot of customers who still have blue coat proxies, and the clock is ticking on getting rid of those blue coat proxies. So whilst you might have started an engagement to talk about Prisma Access at a bigger level, you know what, we've got a lot of functionality and capability that can help drill down to just dealing with the one use case that is most pertinent to the customer, that is part of their journey towards their bigger picture, say zero trust, for example, but they've got a burning issue right at this very moment. So what does it look like at the moment? I mean, this diagram demonstrates back to on-premise via your blue coat, for example, but this could equally be to a unique cloud proxy. But if that cloud proxy is unique and only used to provide access for SaaS and public internet, how does that provide reporting for your other applications? How does it provide a seamless user experience? And that decision as to whether you go to the cloud proxy or to an on-prem is often made by the applet on the end user device. So what do we do here? Again, it's a similar setup as we showed before, which is one of the key points of Prisma Access, that the users and wherever they are can get to their internet and SaaS applications with the full suite of Palo Alto security policy provided to them, app ID, user ID, device ID for zero trust, for example, with our full suite of functionality. Also, and this is a recent innovation in our latest 4.0 version of Prisma Access, that this can be, you can deploy the agent in many, many ways. So we've enhanced all of our proxy functionality to cope with customers who need to fix the proxy issue quickly. And we've got multiple ways of deploying Prisma Access through GP now. So you've got GP Always On, as we've always talked about it, which is the full ZTNA suite. Then we've got GP in hybrid mode, where you can have proxy for internet for this use case, and then you could have a tunnel to on-prem data center and public cloud, for example, which allows customers to start their journey by just replacing their proxy requirement, but then having the ability to bring the other applications in from on-prem and DC, for example, public cloud, into the Prisma Access suite as you move. We can deploy it as a pack file for explicit proxy, for example, for if you've got a customer who uses pack files, and the only way they'll be able to deploy a change would be by updating the pack file and providing a new proxy functionality. We can deliver this from Prisma Access. We also have clientless for headless devices such as servers and IoT, etc. And we've even got non-default route for branches using proxy mode with remote networks and explicit proxy integration. So the amount of tools in the toolkit to help solve the customers, provide a path out of where they are today is enormous. So what this looks like, again, this looks like users, remote sites, and applications are connected into Prisma Access. You apply a policy, the full security suite. The users get a good user experience because within Prisma Access, we've got all the benefits of our massive GCP backbone and AWS that provide low latency and high peering into the SaaS applications. We've got a SaaS SLA. We're unique in the industry in delivering a SaaS SLA. That varies depending on region, but it is, you know, we're talking millisecond SLA here to those SaaS applications. And likewise, if you've got legacy apps and multi-protocol apps that are down in the data center or in the public cloud, we can connect to those as well. One thing that I'd like to mention here that is a unique to us, and it's one of the USPs of Prisma Access, is that you get each customer's tenant is unique. It gets its own infrastructure, so it's not a commingled data plane, etc. It is its own instance, and within the at no additional charge, within that Prisma Access instance, you get your own egress IPs. So one of the ways of managing security for SaaS applications is that you provide IP whitelisting for the inbound connection to the SaaS application. And that can be very difficult on some of the cloud SWIG providers, the existing ones, where you do not get your own egress IP from the environment, which means you can't use whitelisting. And what that does, it allows you to do IP source anchoring. And one of the security requirements that it solves for is if you've got a user with a credential pair, username and password, for example, and they could connect into a SaaS application with that username and password from any device. So how do you monitor? How do you provide DLP? How do you secure that traffic if they're doing that from any device? So what companies tend to do is they provide IP whitelisting, so only certain IP addresses can connect into the SaaS application. So you need both your your credential pair and the egress IP to connect. With Prisma Access, you don't have to do that via your data center example. You can do it directly from Prisma Access with that unique egress IP. So that a wrap on that specific pair of use cases. We provide all the granular controls and all of our the full suite of Palo Alto security, which is DNS security, advanced DNS security, advanced URL, wildfire database, which is massively many times larger than any of our competitors. And this is from a user experience, we can integrate that with ADEM. So the three whys: how does your current SWIG proxy solution scale to meet your changes? Yeah, that is one of the things that customers have issues with, particularly if it's they're still relying on on-prem things like Blue Coat. And how do we improve the application experience? Why now? What are the desired security outcomes? And how do you fix the current user experience, etc., and the ticking time bomb of your existing solution going end of sale, end of life? And again, Prisma Access, this is one of the things we can solve with all those different ways of delivering the service through the different proxy modes, through GP, through clientless, etc. We're also working on BYOD functionality, where you can take a clientless device that a contractor might have and connect that into Prisma Access for specific applications, so you can provide the security onto them. We've got a Fortune 100 pharmaceutical company here. They had a very urgent requirement to migrate their legacy SWIG to Prisma Access with better security and dramatically improved user experience. Cloud migration was the primary driver here. And as such, they wanted to reduce their multi-vendor on-premise hardware deployments. That's another thing I've not mentioned. Hardware vendor consolidation is a big piece. So if you look across the use cases we've covered, this could be provided by many different vendors. So you'll have different security profiles, you'll have different security policies being managed by large teams across the customer infrastructure just to provide app access to a user group. That doesn't work with zero trust. You can never deliver zero trust if you've got a large number of vendors, because you can't keep your policies in line. Well, you might be able to, but it'd be very difficult. And that was one of the big drivers for this organization. So this brings me on to actually securing SaaS applications themselves. CASB, the term, or Cloud Access Security Broker, has been around for a long time. We're sticking with the moniker of CASB, though I think we should start turning just preferring it to data security in a broader sense, because it's not. CASB does spread. Those of us who've been in the industry a while and watched the development of how customers look to manage their the explosion of SaaS applications. CASB was one of the first methodologies, and it requires an API into the SaaS application itself. And to be honest, not a lot of SaaS applications have that API functionality. Some who did have it are removing it. It is a complicated thing to do. It's powerful but complicated. And within our next-gen CASB suite, which I'm going to talk about here, we have that functionality, which is the API based, which is for data at rest within those SaaS applications. And we've actually got more SaaS applications we're integrated with than anyone else, I think, which allows us to provide that security to data at rest. And that's the ability to scan it with wildfire, look for nasties up there, and provide DLP, or data loss prevention services, into that data at rest, which is the historic CASB piece. We also then have SaaS inline and SSPM, which is what I'm going to talk about a little bit more at the moment. So we all know that users customers classify applications as sanctioned, tolerated, and risky, or sanctioned, tolerated, and unsanctioned, depending on your phraseology. But we've seen a massive explosion of SaaS applications across customers. And anecdotally, it's quite interesting. If you ask a customer how many SaaS applications they have, they might say 100, 150. But if you analyze that, you'll find there's a lot more. And a lot of them, they'll be going, oh, maybe we shouldn't. Maybe that's what we call shadow IT. So if you've got users who need a function and don't know or can't find the corporate sanctioned application that provides that function, then you need to know about the application and provide a granular control to that application. And that's what we're able to offer with our SaaS inline security. So one of the advantages of the of Prisma Access is, and actually it's not limited to Prisma Access, this capability, this inline SaaS security and DLP, can be applied as a license to all of the Palo Alto estate, to firewalls and VMs and etc. as well. And that we're actually developing a license that is metered on user count rather than device count, etc. So you can provide this as an entire estate solution. But what it does is it allows us, because all packets are going through Prisma Access and not to disparate solutions, we're able to inspect those packets as they move. So if you take a mobile user on a train over here accessing SaaS application over here, that goes through Prisma Access. So we can inspect it, we can apply a granular policy to it. And that policy goes right the way down to, right, our corporate standard is OneDrive as part of our Office 365 suite. However, this user works with a customer who uses Dropbox. So we will allow that user or a subset of users to access Dropbox for upload, for download, but they're not allowed to upload to Dropbox. We can apply that level of policy. We can also do full inspection or DLP inspection of that traffic, to the point where you can say, okay, this is tagged, this isn't allowed to go up, this is allowed to go up. This guy's HR, they're allowed to send certain things up which other people aren't, but that would be with a flag. So we're applying policy to all of that traffic as it moves around your customer's estate. It's a big subject. Data security is a big subject, and something that we're having a lot of traction with customers, because without providing something that is as pervasive and as everywhere as Prisma Access, it's almost impossible to provide this type of policy across your customer use cases. So here's the 3 whys again. Examples of critical data in your SaaS environment that cannot be compromised. That's where you need to provide DLP to this traffic, etc. On a scale of 1 to 10, how impactful are operational efficiencies? This is something that varies on the organization and the industry they're in. If they're highly regulated, they would have done more. But I've spoken to a number of quite large organizations who have simply parked this in the too difficult tray. So if you're having a conversation about Cloud Swig or VPN replacement, you can have a little segue into this piece that allows you to start talking about data security, and that is a massive thing for your customers. I'm going to start moving on a little bit, because ADEM is another key part that is a segue out of those. So how do you, again, like the data security piece, how do you provide big company-wide visibility into the user experience? And for some teams, that is like if you're the network team, it's mean time to innocence. The network's down. Well, no, it isn't. You've got poor experience because your ISP is misperforming, or you're too far from your home router, for example. If you're the help desk, you want to be able to close tickets and meet your SLA back to the business. So ADEM, which is our Autonomous Digital Experience Management, is a segment-wise function that provides visibility into all of these pieces. So you've got a user at home who's got poor experience. They can actually, it's now developing self-service. They can click, as I can here, you can click on the ADEM functionality, have a look at it, and you can say your ISP has got a problem. Switch to a different form of connectivity if you can, like tether to your phone or go into the office, etc. And that means that there isn't even a ticket raised. Or if there is a ticket raised, the help desk can have a look at that and they can say, look, this isn't our infrastructure, this is an issue with your home infrastructure. And mean time to innocence enables the help desk to close down that user experience. So this is another thing, or mean time to resolution. I like mean time to innocence, but it's not our problem, it's this is a resolution to it. So just moving on to the last piece, I'm going to cover a little bit about SSPM in the last two. So SSPM is SaaS Security Posture Management. It's relatively new to, it's relatively new to the market. It's being picked up. I think there's App Omni, one of our competitors. Microsoft are looking at something, but I won't tell you how Microsoft managed theirs, with a big smile on my face. But historically, when everything was in the data center, you could apply policy to the application. Now the applications are SaaS-based, it gets very difficult to apply policy to them. So these build slides are always fun. Large enterprises, as we mentioned, have got a lot of applications. The security buttons within those applications are getting more complicated, and the lack of coordination between the app owners and the IT security team is growing. So various owners, various business units might have a specific application that they own, but then security has to manage the security on it, which gets difficult. And as the bottom of that slide said, 99% of security breaches in SaaS are due to human error. I'll move on because of time, and the legacy CASB doesn't necessarily fix that. So historically, you might have to map the security function of each one of your applications in a spreadsheet, for example, update it once a week. We're seeing more and more press around breaches from SaaS applications, which are mostly due to misconfiguration. Whereas SSPM is an ability to provide comprehensive app coverage from a single place that provides security compliance and beyond security and compliance, and it's preventative. So making sure you've got the right security on your SaaS applications allows you to secure them and make sure that they're well looked after prior to actually going live, and it massively reduces the time to complete these tasks. We've got 10 times more SaaS applications covered. I think we're over 90 now, and we've got many more settings per application, and this is a huge differentiator for us, and it is bundled in our next gen CASB piece that we talked about just now. So it's another large conversation, and the SSPM is growing as a security function within the the marketplace at the moment. Don't have time to cover this piece. I'm happy to come back and talk to everybody about it at a later date. One last thing before we wrap. We are happy to provide a SaaS security report to any Palo Alto customer who's got our Prisma Access, who's trialing Prisma Access, who's got our next-gen firewalls. This SaaS security report is in-depth and details, and it really highlights why that customer might need to start looking at our next-gen CASB functionality in SSPM. And I'd suggest as a way of starting to promote this and get engaged with your customers, because this might be a different team within the organization you're looking to talk to around data security, getting your network security contacts, etc., to produce this report and then share it and promulgate the benefits of what we can do through the organization will help you get further and wide within your customer base. Thank you very much for your time this morning. I hope that was useful. Please do get back to Nikki or I if you have any further comments. I've got a question here from Bhargav. Yes, we can help provide logs to local government, absolutely. My colleague Richard Apps is king of that environment. Do reach out to him. But yes, we can provide logs. Logging, and I didn't go into all of that side of it. It's another hour session to go into our security and logging and all that functionality. I wanted to cover some use cases today. But yes, the centralized logging, our cloud data lake capability, and the detail you can get back out of this is enormous, and that's one of the key parts of it. That's how you do zero trust, is the logging and the data and the reporting back into the organization, and the automatic raising of tickets if there's a flag, and the remediation piece you can get from centralized logging is huge. Eve, thank you very much. Yes, please contact Palo Alto, your rep, or even distribution. If your distribution managed as a partner, they will be able to provide details on how you get back to it. Thank you very much. I will wrap now, and I hope everyone has a good day and a good weekend when it arrives.